I stood in the kitchen, still in my work uniform, the mail in my hand trembling. It was a letter from my college, final notice. My tuition payment was overdue, and unless it was cleared within 5 business days, my enrollment would be frozen. I blinked, confused, my heart thudding hard against my ribs. That didn't make sense. I had $4,200 saved. My college fund. Every penny I'd earned from babysitting, working retail on weekends, and that one summer internship I landed after sending out 50 resumes. I rushed to my room, opened the banking app. My breath caught. 0 balance. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Maybe I used the wrong account. But when I looked through the transaction history, my stomach dropped. Multiple purchases at high-end stores. Louis Vuitton, Sephora, Apple. Thousands drained in days. I stormed into the living room, my voice shaking. Where's my tuition money? My mom didn't look up from her phone. We used it, she said, casually like she was commenting on the weather. I couldn't breathe. Used it? For what? For your sister, she replied flatly, finally glancing at me. She needed new clothes and a phone for her birthday. I stared at her, certain I had misheard. You spent my college fund for her shopping spree? She deserved it more than you, she said, tilting her head slightly. You're always so serious about school. Maybe this will help you relax. My dad walked in right then, nodded without shame. You're always responsible, Chloe. You'll figure something out. Your sister needed a little joy. A little joy? They stole my future to give her a few selfies and handbags. My throat burned, but I couldn't even form a sentence. And then came the final punch. My sister walked by, flaunting her new heels, smirking. Thanks for the early birthday gift, she said and winked. I stood there, frozen, like someone had pulled the floor out from under me. These were the people I had trusted, loved, sacrificed for, and they'd chosen her again, not just with words, but with my life. And in that moment, something inside me broke. Quietly, permanently. It wasn't just the $4,200. It wasn't just the shopping bags or the birthday. That moment in the living room, that cold, casual dismissal, was the final confirmation of something I'd been trying not to believe for years. I was never the daughter they chose. I was the daughter they used. Growing up, I had always been the dependable one, the quiet one. While my sister, Ava, had glitter in her hair and fire in her voice, I had books in my bag and lists in my planner. I stayed home to help with chores while she went to parties. I gave up ballet lessons because Ava's gymnastic fees doubled. When the family car broke down one summer, they sold my guitar to help fix it without even telling me. You're strong, Mom would say. Ava needs more support. Dad always nodded in agreement, as if it was some unspoken truth that I didn't get to have needs, just strength. When Ava didn't get into her top college, they threw her a cheer-up vacation to Cancun. When I made Dean's List, they said, "That's what we expect from you, Chloe." I remember one Christmas when I saved up for months to buy my parents a coffee machine. Ava got them a keychain she picked up from the mall last minute. Guess whose gift they opened first? Whose they praised? There was always this unspoken equation in our house. Ava equals adored. Chloe equals available. They leaned on me when bills were tight, when emotions ran high, when things needed fixing. I was the steady one, the fixer, the background player in my own family story. And every time they took from me, my time, my savings, my peace, I told myself it was just what you do for family, that someday they'd see me. But they never did. The tuition money was the clearest signal. Not a mistake, not a slip. It was a pattern so old it had its own rhythm. And this time, the damage couldn't be hidden behind fake gratitude or gaslighting. They didn't even ask. They just decided I didn't need my education as much as Ava needed a designer purse. That I'd figured out because I always had. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the silence around me louder than ever. I thought about every time I'd said no to myself so they could say yes to her. I wasn't jealous. I was exhausted. Being the backup daughter had a cost. And for once, I wasn't willing to pay it. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask why. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. They had shown me who I was to them, and I finally believed them. So I went to my room, shut the door softly, and sat on the edge of my bed. Everything around me looked the same. The bookshelf stacked with textbooks I paid for, the chipped desk where I planned my future, the corkboard full of scholarships I applied to by myself. It all suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else. Someone who had been waiting for approval that was never coming. I opened my closet and pulled out the duffel bag I used when I stayed on campus during orientation week. I began folding clothes, jeans, sweatshirts, a few button-downs, like I was preparing for a trip I didn't know I was taking until just now. No one knocked. No one asked what I was doing. No one cared. I wasn't surprised. When I zipped up the bag, the sound was deafening. It sliced through the silence like a statement. I'm done. I walked back down the stairs slowly. My mom was watching some reality show, feet up on the coffee table, sipping from a wine glass. Ava was still scrolling through her phone, probably texting friends about the new shoes Mom bought her with my tuition. I stood at the edge of the living room, duffel slung over my shoulder. I'm heading out, I said quietly. Mom looked over, not with worry but with annoyance. What's with the attitude? I didn't answer that. I just gave her a small nod. Thanks for everything. It wasn't gratitude. It was closure. Dad looked up from his laptop. You being dramatic again? I ignored him. No goodbye from Ava. She didn't even look up. I walked out the front door, the hinges creaking behind me, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to explain myself to anyone. Outside, the air was cold, sharper than I expected. It filled my lungs with something I hadn't felt in a long time, breath. As I walked down the street, my heart pounded, not from panic, but from something quieter and deeper. Grief. Fear. But underneath it all, something was cracking open. A strange calm. A whisper I had ignored for years was getting louder. You don't belong there anymore. That house was never home. That family was never safe. I had been surviving inside their world of conditions, expectations, and emotional hand-me-downs. Now I was walking out of it, not to punish them, but to finally choose me. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but for the first time, I knew who I wasn't going to be anymore. The first few days were the hardest. I'd moved in with Sarah, a friend from my college orientation. She had a small apartment near campus, and even though it wasn't much, it felt like freedom. Still, the quiet sting of betrayal hung heavy in the air, especially when I thought about how easily they'd taken what was mine. The $4,200, my future, had vanished without a second thought, and it left me feeling hollow. But I wasn't going to let myself drown in bitterness. I refused. I wasn't going to waste my energy on regret, anger, or revenge. That was petty. What I needed was control, and control would come in silence. It was time to take back everything I had lost. My first step was simple. Sever all financial ties. They didn't deserve access to a single cent of mine anymore. I sat at the small desk in Sarah's apartment, surrounded by stacks of textbooks I was too tired to read, and I pulled up my bank account on my laptop. The digital world was quieter than it had ever been before. There, in front of me, was the lingering reminder of my parents' trust in me, the shared accounts, the credit cards they had co-signed, all the strings they had attached to me, pulling me back when I tried to move forward. With shaky hands, I changed the passwords, revoked their access, and removed their names from every account that had ever tied me to them. I didn't care if they screamed, they came running. This was mine, not theirs. Then I made the decision I had been putting off for weeks. I blocked their contact information. I didn't need the guilt. I didn't need the shame they were always trying to pin on me. If they wanted to reach me, they'd have to find another way, but I wasn't about to make it easy for them. I thought back to all the times I had been told, "You're the responsible one, Chloe," as if that was a compliment, as if that didn't mean, "You're the one we can always count on to clean up the mess." But this wasn't just about cleaning up anymore. This was about building something they could never tear down. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was planning. I dove into my college scholarship search, spending late nights writing essays, contacting professors, looking for anything that could relieve the financial burden. And then I picked up a side hustle, tutoring, babysitting, anything that paid. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The more I worked, the more I started to see a different kind of future. One where I didn't rely on them. One where I wasn't constantly expected to carry the weight of their expectations. I wasn't being petty. I wasn't punishing them. I was simply building what I should have had all along. For the first time, I could see a path forward, and it was quiet. It was methodical, and it was mine. In those moments, I realized something crucial. They had taken my tuition fund, but they couldn't take my drive. They could try to break me, but they couldn't break my determination. That quiet power was starting to build within me, and it felt stronger than any rage or regret. And I wasn't stopping. Every time I scrolled through my social media, it felt like I was choking on a bitter pill. There she was, my sister, Ava, smiling into the camera, her arms draped over the newest designer bag, a gift from Mom. Another shopping spree, another expensive, shiny object she didn't need. Each post seemed to mock me, a reminder of the money that should have been mine, the future I should have been able to build without strings attached. But there was something in me now, a flicker at first, of something other than bitterness, a decision to stop letting her and them have that hold over me. I didn't respond to her posts. I didn't comment. Instead, I woke up early every morning before the sun and hit the books, pages turning with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt before. I spent hours poring over finance texts, scribbling notes for my next big paper, and building up a network of peers and professors who saw the drive in me, who could see past the mess that had once defined me. And in the quiet of my little rented room, I found something that Ava would never understand: peace. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about showing them I could survive without them. It was about what I was building inside myself, what I was becoming. I was done being the backup daughter, the one who gave everything and got nothing but guilt in return. I was becoming someone who could stand tall, who didn't need their approval or their endless demands. One day, during office hours, I ran into Professor Hamilton, a no-nonsense economics professor who had been one of the few to genuinely notice me. I had reached out for advice about a research project, and it had turned into a conversation about my future. "You've got something about you," he said, his eyes piercing through the casual veneer I had perfected. "I've seen students struggle with their finances, their family situations. But you don't just want to survive. You want to do something with your life. You want to create." It was the first time in months that someone had believed in me, truly believed in my potential without a motive. Not a parent who saw me as a financial safety net, not a sister who saw me as competition. Just a man who recognized my will to rise. Professor Hamilton helped me land an internship at a financial consulting firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was the first real break I had gotten. I learned the ropes of investment strategies and business models, things I had once only dreamt of understanding. The work was hard, long, and tedious, but it gave me a new sense of worth. I was no longer just the responsible one. I was the one in control of my destiny. As Ava continued to post photos of her new bags and shoes, I was learning how to create spreadsheets that could help me manage my future, not my parents' whims. Each day spent working on my goals felt like a new stitch in a quilt that I was weaving piece by piece from scratch. And with each small success, I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer that little girl who had been used for her good grades and reliable nature. I was becoming something they would never expect. I was becoming me. It had been almost a year since I'd cut ties with my family, a year of building my life on my own terms. Every day felt like a new victory, no matter how small. The freedom I had carved out for myself was sweet, and the quiet was more beautiful than I ever expected. But when the call came, I should have known the storm was brewing. It started with a notification, a simple alert from my bank. "Your recent transaction was declined. Please review your account." At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was an error. But when I checked the details, my heart dropped. There it was, a charge to my credit card, one I hadn't made. Someone had tried to make a large purchase. Someone I knew very well. I stared at the screen, a sick feeling settling in my stomach. The name on the transaction was familiar. It was my mother. She had used my credit card, the one I had painstakingly blocked from their access, trying to buy another high-end purse for my sister. The nerve, the audacity. I immediately called my bank, and they confirmed it. The charge was reversed, and my account had been locked. There was no way they could process the payment. That was when I knew. They hadn't learned. They hadn't changed. And now they were in for a rude awakening. A few hours later, my phone buzzed with a flood of frantic messages. "Mom, why was my card declined? I need to speak to you. Now." "Dad, what did you do?" "This is your responsibility. You owe us." "Ava, Chloe, why are you making this difficult? You've always been the reliable one. Help." I sat there, staring at their texts, feeling nothing. They had no idea what they were up against. I had learned to build something from nothing, and now they wanted to lean on me again. They thought they could just pick up where they left off, as though I were still that daughter who always caved in. I didn't reply. Instead, I took a deep breath and took the next step. I logged into my bank account one last time and did something they would never expect. I froze every single link they had to my financials. No more shared cards. No more loans under my name. Not a single thread of connection. The next thing I did was call my lawyer. My parents had crossed the line, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. We drafted a formal letter explaining that any further attempts to misuse my name or financial resources would result in legal action. I could already hear the chaos beginning on the other end. Mom, what the hell is going on? Why would you cut us off like this? Dad, you're breaking this family apart. We gave you everything. Ava, I can't believe you're doing this to me. You know I don't have money like you. You're selfish. The messages became more desperate, frantic, and full of guilt. But this time I didn't feel the pull. I wasn't the backup daughter anymore. I wasn't the one they could manipulate into fixing their mess. I let their messages sit in my inbox untouched. They weren't just angry because of a credit card being declined. They were panicking because they realized they had lost their grip on me. And I wasn't coming back. The phone rang, a sound I had come to dread over the past year. It was a number I had blocked. But somehow, I knew this would be different. I stared at the screen for a moment before finally pressing answer. Chloe. My mom's voice cracked through the line, raw with emotion. Please, baby, just listen to me. We didn't mean to hurt you. You have to understand. Her sobs were loud, desperate. I didn't say anything for a while. Just let the silence stretch between us. I wasn't angry anymore, but I wasn't forgiving either. Not yet. You've been silent for so long, she continued, her voice trembling. Your father and I are scared. We don't know what to do. We never meant for things to go this far. Please come back. You're the only one who can help us. The words stung, but I didn't let them affect me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment I could finally lay it all out, the truth they had been avoiding for years. You never meant to hurt me? I repeated softly, my voice devoid of anger. Mom, you used my future to fund your shopping sprees. You took everything I had saved, every penny, and gave it to Ava. Then you and Dad acted like I should be grateful for the crumbs you left me. Do you remember the times I had to co-sign loans for the house, or the way I had to bail you both out when things went wrong? I could hear her choking on her sobs, but I wasn't going to let her use it against me anymore. She had done it for years. Remember when I said I wanted to go to college? You told me it was too much of a stretch. You said it was more important for you to spend on Ava's birthday party than my tuition. How about the times I gave up my weekends to help pay bills or take care of things at home because Ava was busy with her friends? You let me do all the heavy lifting, all while pretending like I was the one who owed you. Her crying intensified, but I pressed on. You used me, I said simply, no emotion in my voice. You used my money, my time, and my spirit. And when I finally took a step back to protect myself, you called me selfish. I could hear my dad's voice in the background, muffled but persistent. Chloe, we're sorry. We need you. This is just a rough patch. Please help. No, Dad, I replied calmly. You don't get to use that excuse anymore. I've given enough. You don't deserve any more of my time or my support. My mom's voice faltered. Chloe, please don't do this. I can't lose you two. I'm not going anywhere, I said, finally feeling something close to peace. I'm just finally putting myself first. Something you've never let me do. You spent my support for years. Now I'm spending my peace. The call ended with a quiet, painful silence. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel angry. I just felt free. They would never understand, but that didn't matter anymore. They had shown me time and time again that love for them had always been conditional, based on what I could give, what I could sacrifice. But I had learned something they would never grasp. Love for myself had to be unconditional. And that was all I needed now. It had been 2 years since that phone call. 2 years of silence. 2 years of living my life on my own terms. And in that time, so much had changed. I had graduated with honors, something I had once thought was a distant dream. My business had grown steadily, and it felt like for the first time, I was in control of my future. I was finally doing what I loved, and my career had taken off. The weight of always being the backup daughter, the one who sacrificed her dreams for everyone else, had lifted. Now I was living my dreams. It wasn't just the success that mattered, though. It was the peace. The mental clarity that came with not being tethered to a family that only saw me as a resource. But then the email came. It was from my mom with the subject line, "Chloe, please, we need you." I opened it slowly, bracing myself for the same guilt trip I had heard so many times before. But this time there was something different in her tone. Something almost desperate. "Chloe," the email began, "I know it's been a long time and I know I've hurt you. I can't tell you how sorry I am for what happened with your tuition and everything after that. Your dad and I are struggling. We've fallen behind on bills and we just can't keep up. Ava's still not working and we don't know where to turn. Please, we need your help. We don't know who else to turn to." I sat there, staring at the screen. Part of me wanted to feel anger. Part of me wanted to say, "I told you so." But what I felt more than anything was a deep sadness. Realization that they had never changed. They were still the same people who expected me to fix their messes without taking responsibility for their own actions. I took a deep breath and typed out a response, my fingers moving slowly across the keys as I chose my words carefully. "Mom, I've forgiven you," I wrote, "but I'm not your backup plan anymore. I've worked too hard to build my life, and I'm not going to undo all of that for you. I wish things were different. I wish you had seen me, truly seen me when I needed you the most. But I can't be the one who bails you out every time life gets tough. I've learned to take care of myself, and now it's your turn to do the same." I didn't send the email immediately. I sat there, reading my words over and over again. It felt like the end of something, but also the beginning of something new. I had learned to set boundaries to protect myself, and I was finally putting them into practice. When I did send it, I felt a strange sense of calm. They had spent years using me, thinking they could always lean on me. But I wasn't that person anymore. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from my dad. "You don't understand. We're falling apart." I didn't respond. What I had once feared, that I would be alone, that I would be the one left out, was no longer a concern. I had built something far more valuable than what they ever expected. Independence. Strength. A life of my own. And as I sat there, surrounded by the freedom I had fought for, I realized something even more profound. I didn't need them to complete me. I was whole on my own. The family they had thrown away, the one they had underestimated, had become the family they needed.